بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. لقد نوينا التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة نبيه ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على خير وكل ما نواه مشايخنا ابتغاء وجه الله وثوابه وقربه. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما نافعا يا كريم. Alhamdulillah, in our Intro to Arabic Morphology class, we have been taking a look at what are called derivative nouns, right? Nouns that are derived from verbs, and due to the fact that they are derived from verbs, they resemble verbs in some of their meanings. Right? So just to recap what we've done last week, we've talked about a few out of the 6 or 7 derivative nouns. Right? Just to reiterate, the derivative nouns are called the al-mushtaqat. And the mushtaqat. Okay, so the mushtaqat, they are mashtaqqa min al-af'al, right? That which is broken off from the af'al, right? So this comes from the word ishtaqqa, which is form 8. So ishtaqqa means to break off min something, right? Right, so you can say ishtaqqa Zaydun min al-jama'ah, or an al-jama'ah. Right? Zayd broke off from the group. Sorry, it's not min, it's an. Okay, to break off from something is a mushtaqqa. Right? Ishtaqqa, yashtaqu, form 8. We've talked about that the mushtaqats, the nouns that are derivative nouns. Okay, that they resemble verbs. Right? So now a verb, right, as we mentioned before, a fi'al, it has an action, right? It has a doer within it, right? So either that doer is a pronoun hidden within the word, right? Like daraba, right? He hit, right? So he here is a pronoun which is subsumed in the verb, right? So you have the action, which is to hit. You have the doer, which is he, or if you put the verb after the name afterwards, this would be your doer, right? Depending on whichever one you want to use. Okay, in this example, we're just using the pronoun, right? And it has a tense. Right? So in this case, it's past tense. Okay. However, right, a noun, a regular noun, right? Because we're going to talk about a specific subset of nouns, which are derivative nouns. Now, a regular noun, right? It has a person, right? So it's a person, place, or thing. Person, place, right? Or thing. But it doesn't have a tense and it doesn't have an action. It doesn't have a tense or an action. So it's very different from the fi'al. Right? However, there are types of verbs. Right? Sorry, there are types of nouns. Right? There are nouns that resemble, right, verbs. And then there are regular nouns. Right? Right, so regular nouns are what we just mentioned, right? A person, a place, a thing. Right, so like for instance, Zayd is a regular noun. Masjid, it's a place, regular noun. right? They're not derivative nouns, right? A better way to write this is, right, derivative nouns as a second category, right? And these are the mushtaqats, and they resemble verbs, right? They have a resemblance with verbs most of the time. Right? So derivative nouns, right, as opposed to regular nouns, right, they include, there's an action, right, because the root letters that are contained, that make up that noun, uh, in, entail, right, a type of action. Right? So it's just like when we use the verb daraba, the root letters of daraba, daraba, right, means to hit. Right? So right, there's an action entailed, right? And then, right, depending on which derivative noun it is, right, there may be a doer, right, or a person implicated in the action. However, no tense. Okay, so let's take an example. Right, we already had daraba as our example for verbs. If I say daribun, which is a hitter, right, or la'ibun, which is, right, someone who's a player or someone who's playing. Right, or let's give another example from a different form. Let's say mumathil. Right, mumathil is from which form? Can anyone tell me what form mumathilun is from? Because we took before that the ism fa'il, the active participle, when it's not in form 1, it's made from the mudari' by adding the meme in the beginning, by changing the first letter to a meme. Right, so mumathil was originally yumathil. Right, so which form is yumathilu?
Form 2.
Form 2, good, right? So mumathilun is an active participle of form 1. Now tamthil means to act, right? So it's an actor. I believe that's how you spell it, or is it ER? I think it's OR. Okay. So ikhtilaf. Okay. Actor or actor. Okay. All right. So these are all, firstly, all these are singular and they're masculine. Singular and masculine. Right. If I wanted to make it feminine, it would be mumathilatun, la'ibatun, daribatun. Right. So since these ones are all singular masculine, they all have within them the pronoun. And this is implicit. It's not that there's actually a pronoun hidden in the words, right? But it's implied due to the structure of the word being mumathil and not mumathilatun, right? So there's a doer, okay? So we have the doer. In this case, it's huwa, right? We have an action. So what is the action of mumathil? What is the root letters imply an action? What would that action be?
Acting.
So the mumathil, what do they do? Go ahead.
Acting.
Acting, right, exactly. Right, so the action is there. It's implied in the root letters. So acting is the action. And then there's no tense, right? So you don't say, okay, mumathil yesterday or mumathil tomorrow. No, right? It's a noun. No noun has a tense, right? All right. However, you can see that there are similarities between the noun and the verb with regards to other things besides the tense. The tense is the biggest difference between a verb and a noun. No noun has a tense, and all verbs have to have a tense. Okay, whereas the derivative nouns, right, they are the closest thing to resembling the verbs, right? But they're still nouns, right? So there is no tense. Okay. So some of the derivative nouns we've taken already, and we just want to give a small recap. Let's keep this in the screen. Okay, we have the ismul fa'il. Ismul fa'il, which is the active participle Okay, right? Ism fa'il is a form, is a pattern that you can, or a template of word. So it's a, right, it's a type of template. So the template is you plug into it your root letters and you get the active participle meaning, right? So if your root letters were, for instance, sin, ra, and qa. Okay, sin, ra, and qa. What does anyone know what sariqa means? It's a tough question, actually. It's mentioned in the Qur'an, right? As-sariqu was-sariqatu. It means to steal, right? So the root letters sin, ra, qa mean to steal. If I put it in a verb, right, form, saraqa, right, yasriqu, in the present tense would be yasriqu, right? This means he stole, right, or right, he will steal. Okay, right, so here we have a verb which has a doer, an action, and a tense, right? So there's stealing going on. It was done by a singular male because of saraqa, not saraqat, which would be a female. And right, there's a tense, either past tense or present tense. Tamam. So that's one, that's the verb. Right, but the templates were the of the ism fa'il is, right, for form 1, right, is fa'ilun. And that's why it's called ismul fa'il, because it follows the pattern of fa'il. All right, so what would be the active participle of the root letters sin, ra, qa? Sin, ra, qa.
سارق.
Sariqun. Good. Right. Right. So the sariq, right, again, is a person because it's masculine, singular. So he. So the he is implied. You're going to say a thief, right? But when you say a thief in English, it could apply to any type of person as long as it's singular, right? So it could be, you can say she is a thief, he is a thief, right? Or you can make it plural. They are thieves. That could be dual or plural. We are thieves, right? So forth. Right? But in Arabic, right, it's specific. Right? So if you're going to say they are thieves, you'd have to make thieves plural, sariqun. Right? If you're going to say she is a thief, you would say hiya sariqatun. So you have to make your ismul fa'il match, right, to whoever you're talking about. But still, there's a person within there. There's an action, which is stealing, but there's no tense. Right? So sariq is thief. Right? So a thief implies an action, a person, but no tense. Right? For form 2 to 10, who can recall what the template is for the ism al-fa'il?
It's made from the mudari' verb. Mudari' form.
Okay, so it's made from the mudari'. Right, so right here, the sadaqa is the example for form 1, right? There is no form 2 for sadaqa. So let's give an example for form 2. Let's say we're going to use form 2 to 10. We're going to use the words ha, mim, and dal. Okay? So ha, mim, dal, I want to make ism al-fa'il for form 1. What would it be? I want to use the root letters ha, mim, dal, right? But I want to make an ism al-fa'il from form 1.
Hamidun.
Hamidun, right? So one of the names of the Prophet ﷺ is Hamid. Hamid is, well, hamd. What does the word hamd mean? When you say alhamdulillah, what does hamd mean?
Praise.
Praise. Good, right? So that's what Hamim Dal means. So Hamid, how would you translate that?
The one who's praiseworthy.
Praiseworthy would be passive, right? So that would be like ismul maf'ul, right? The passive participle, because they're the doee, not the doer.
Praiser.
The praiser, right? So Hamid is the one, right? The one who praises, praiser. Right? Hamid, and that's one of the names of the Prophet, right? It's just right, praiser. Okay, but we want to make it. Let's try form 2. So what would be the verb of form 2 if we're to use ha mim dal on form 2?
Hamada.
All right, form 2 would be, right? So the verb, right? Form 2 verb would be hamada, right? With the tashdid on the middle, because all form 2 is fa'ala yufa'ilu. So what would be the present tense, right? If hamada is the past tense?
Yuhammada.
Yuham, close.
Mada.
Ma or mi?
In the dictionary, it has an A.
The letter A, U, or I is only for form 1. So it's hamida yahmadu. But when you go to form 2, right, it follows the patterns that you've memorized. It's not mentioned there how do you pronounce it.
Okay. So it's
So
Yuhammidu.
hamada, you. So like allama, yu'al,
So Yuhammidu.
yuhammidu. Good, right? Because yuhammadu would be passive. Hummida, yuhammadu. All right, so hammada, yuhammidu. He praises, right? Or he will praise if it's the present tense. Okay, all right, so those are verbs, right? We want to use the same root letters, ha, mim, dal, to make an ismul fa'il for form 2. Right, so somebody mentioned it just now. Which of these 2 verbs do we use to form our ismul fa'il, the past tense or the present tense?
مضارع مرفوع معروف sorry
المضارع.
مضارع معروف
المضارع معروف, right? So the active مضارع. Okay, and then we change the يحمد to
Meme with a dhamma.
ميم with الضمة, exactly, right? So we change the ya, or the first letter, which indicates the pronoun, right, to a meme. Right, so whenever you see a meme at the beginning of a word, right, and it's obviously extra from the 3 root letters, right, then you can assume, or you can assume that that's going to either be, it's going to be one of the derivative nouns, right? So you can say, right, meme with al-dhamma, right, is a good indicator of ismul fa'il. Meme with a fatha, right, is a good indicator of ism makan, which is the place that something happens, right? And then meme with the kasra, right, is the tool that something. So that's a good way to break it down. So we'll visit that as we kind of do our review. Okay, so we change yuhammidu to muhammidu, but then we just add the tanween. Right, so muhammidun, right, the one, right, the essentially the same thing, praiser, right? Because hamida yahmadu form 1 and hammada yuhammidu essentially mean the same thing, right? So the praiser, it's the person, right? There's an action going on, which is praising. There's a person because it's obviously indicating to a person. Muhammidun, the praiser, and in English we use the er to represent the person. All right, but gender is not involved, so it's only on the basis of singular or plural. Right, so you'd say the praiser or the praisers. You wouldn't change it for feminine, but if you were to say huwa muhammidun, he is a praiser, or hiya muhammidatun, she is a praiser, you would change it in the Arabic. Okay, so that's the active participle, right? So in all of these examples, the one doing the action is literally doing the action. The action is not being done to them, right? So it's active participle, right? As opposed to the next one, the next most important, I should say, is ismul maf'ul, which is the passive participle. So the same idea, it's a noun derived from the root letters of a verb, right? And it indicates to an action, a person without, but no tense. Now the action involved here is going to be an action done to the person, not done by the person. So that's why it's called passive. Right? It's it's also called reflexive, that the action goes back to the person themselves. So you can say that they're the doee in this situation instead of the doer. They're the victim. Right? So we want to. Okay, so let's keep the same examples going. Right? So using seen. Right? Sorry, that's really bad handwriting. Right? Seen. Ra. Qa. Right? We want to make a form 1 ism maf'ul. Right, so what is our template for ism maf'ul? What is the pattern that we use to plug in our 3 root letters?
مفعول.
Yeah, it's literally the word maf'ul, but that's for form 1. Right, so form 1, we're using maf'ulun. That's our pattern. Right, so with the words sin, ra, qa, right, what would be our word?
مسروق.
Masruq. Right? Right, because we are plugging these letters in to where the fa, the ayn, and the lam are. Right? We're not replacing the other letters because they give us the structure. Masruqun. Masruq means something stolen. Right? Something stolen. Right? So you can say kitabi masruq. How would you translate that? Kitabi masruqun.
My book is stolen.
My book is stolen. Good. Right? My book is stolen. If I said, well, with sadaqa, it's kind of a, right? So if I wanted to say Zaid is a thief, how would I say it? Zaid is a thief.
زيد سارق.
Zaidun sariqun. Okay. If I wanted to say my money was stolen, but I want to use you can use a passive verb as well. You can say, right, kitabi suriqa. You can do that, but we want to just stick with nouns, practicing these derivative nouns. All right, so I want to say my money, right? Money in Arabic is mal, malun, right? If you want to make it possessive, my money, you would put mali, right? My money, the ya being for I. So my money is stolen. How do I say that? How do you say my money is stolen?
مالي مسروق.
Mali masruqun. Good. Right, so just translating the previous example. My book is stolen. Right, you can replace that mali masruqun. My wealth is stolen. My money is stolen. So here, in this example, kitabi masruq. My book is stolen. Is the book doing an action? Or is there anyone mentioned here that's the thief, the actual thief of the action? Or of the book? Is that mentioned?
No.
Okay, no, right? So the action of stealing, right, passively affected the book, right? The book is not the thief, right? Right? So you can see how it's passing. Is stolen, there's no mention of a person, right? And even the fact that we mentioned is, right, is only because we have to, right? Not because there's a verb there. Okay. So if we just use those two before we go to form 2, If I said, right, Zaydun or let's equal opportunities. Okay, so Aisha sariqatun. How do I translate that? Anyone?
Aisha is a thief.
Good. Right. Aisha is a thief. Right. So she's the doer. Right. If I said, qalansuwati. Actually, let's change the pronoun. Qalansuwatuha. Anyone know what qalansuwa is? Anyone know what qalansuwa is? This is a qalansuwa. A hat. Right? Qalansuwa means a hat. Qalansuwatuha, what does that mean? What does the ha refer to?
Her.
Her, right? So her hat, right? Masruqatun. Right. How do you translate that?
Her hat was stolen.
Good, right? Her hat is or was stolen, right? Contextually, you can change the verb to make it make sense, because technically in Arabic there's no verb, and it would be really weird to say her hat stolen, right? In English. So here we have the first one is an example of which type of derivative noun, right? Specifically the second word. So what type of noun is this? Sariqa?
Ism file. I think I say it.
Good. Ism al-fa'il, right? The active participle, because that's the doer of the action, right? Mentioned in a noun form, right? And then, this one is called what? We just did.
Ism
Ismul maf'ul, right? Masruq maf'ul. That's a good way to memorize it, right? Both of these are form 1, right? And essentially, right, if I wanted to, I could instead of using the derived noun, I could use a verb to express the same meaning. So if I said Aisha saraqat, I think it's sariqat actually, right? Or I can say qalan suwatuha. It's a really long word. Suriqat. Right? They mean the same thing, right? So Aisha to sariqat, Aisha stole, right? So here we're using tense, right? Aisha stole, right? qalan suwatuha suriqat, her hat, right, was, and that's part of the translation, not just something we have to put in, was stolen. Okay, does that make sense? Now, there's a literary difference between using a nominal sentence versus a verbal sentence. There are nuanced reasons why you would choose one over the other. But essentially, sariqa here is the noun version of sariqat. Okay, and right, suriqat, which is the passive, it's majhul, is essentially the same thing as masruqa, right? And all of these are feminine, right? So if I wanted to make it masculine, sariqun is the same as saraqa, and masruqun is the same thing as suriqa. right? Obviously, one having a tense and the other one not. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Feel free to ask questions because it benefits everyone.
Could you repeat that last part about the surikat and the sarakat? Those last
sure.
two sets.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah. So in the handouts that we had handed before, we have the different scales, right? The form 1 scale, the form 2, right? All for the 10 forms, right? So if we wrote out form 1, for instance, right? Sariqa, right? Sariqa, right? Sariqu. We're just going to write some of them, not the whole thing. Sariqat, Sariqata. And we want to practice this actually a little bit today. That's part of what we want to do today. And Sariqna. Okay, so this is the list of the verbs, right? So essentially this is he stole, right? They, and this applies to 2 men, right? Stole. They again, but this is 3 or more men stole, right? Then she, this is the female, right? She stole, right? They, and this is 2 females, right? Stole, and then they, plural, 3 plus females, right? Stole. Okay, so are these active or passive? Right? When you say sariqa, is it active or passive? He stole.
Active.
Right, so these are the active, and that's called ma'ruf in Arabic. And ma'ruf means known, right? And what that means is the doer is known. So if I said sariqa, and I asked who's the doer, you would say he. If I said sariqat, and you asked who's the doer, right? You would say she, because she stole. That's the translation, right? Now, the equivalent to these, you can make a noun version of that, right? So sariqa, what would be the active participle that matches sariqa? He stole would be, right? The action, the doer, and a tense. We don't want the tense. We just want to say, right? A person who steals, right? But male, right? So that would match up with the sariqun. Okay, so you have sariqun. If you want a dual, it would be sariqani. Sariquna would be plural, but these are all masculine, right? Feminine would be sariqatun. Right, sariqatani would be dual. Right, this is not the point. I'm just trying to write it for benefit. Right, sariqatun. All of these are active, right? So thief, 1 male thief, right? 2 male thieves, 3 or more male thieves, 1 female thief, right? 2 female thieves, 3 or more female thieves. Okay. What did we take out? We took out the tense, right? Okay. So that's ma'ruf. Now, if we do the same thing but with the passive, right, which is called majhul, right? And the difference is that when you write the sin raqa, the first letter gets a dhamma and the second to last letter gets a kasra, right? Everything else stays the same. So suriqa, suriqa, right? Suriqu, suriqat, suriqata, and suriqna, suriqna. How would you translate suriqa?
Stealer.
Tough translation.
The feminine tense.
You got the verb right, but it's you got the action right. But what is the tense, right? This is a past tense, so we have to. It's past tense and it's passive. Right? So sariqa was he stole. So if you make it passive, right, it would be either he, right, or it was. So was is the
Stolen.
past tense, stolen. Okay. All right, and then this would be they, right, two plus masculine things, or two masculine things, because it doesn't have to be he, or it could be it. So kitab is a singular masculine thing. So kitabi suriqa, it was stolen. My book was stolen. Right, so this would be two masculine. This would be they, right, three plus masculine. So if I said kutubi suriqu, my books were stolen. Right, so books is masculine plural, suriqu. Right, and then this would be she or it. Right, so if you have a cat, right, and it's a female cat, you would say qittati suriqat, my she was stolen. Right, she was stolen. But was stolen is passive. Right, if the cat actually stole something, it would be she stole. Sarqat. So now the noun equivalent to this would be, right, what we just mentioned just now, the ism al-maf'ul. Masruqun is one masculine thing that was stolen. Right? Masruqani, same thing. Masruqun. Masruqatun. Right? My cat was stolen. Right? Qittati suriqat or qittati masruqah. You can say either one. Right? Masruqatani. And then masruqatun. And I believe we wrote this out last time as well. Okay. All right, so this is the noun. This is ismul maf'ul. Right, so this is the passive noun, passive participle, right, which is directly related to the passive verb. Both of them are passive. Whereas here, right, you have the active participle, ismul fa'il, directly matching the active verb. So that shows us the difference between both the ismul fa'il. Sorry, it's a bit crowded here. Let me just, I can do something here. Okay, just erase this. Okay, all right, so here we have the active participle applying to the active verb. So what is the difference between sariqa and sariqun? Who can tell me? Sariqa and sariqun.
Sariqa has a tense and sariqun doesn't have a tense.
Exactly, that's the only difference. Right? Sariqa has a tense and sariqun has no tense. Right? Essentially, they're the same. Right? You have a singular masculine thief, right? Or you have he stole, right? Or he is stealing. It applies to both the past and present. Does that make sense so far? So these are the two most important derivative nouns, the ism al-fa'il and ism al-maf'ul. Right? And you'll be able to greatly expand your vocabulary, right, by two things. One is memorizing the verb forms, right, and the whole charts. Sariqa, sariqa, sariqu, sariqat, sariqata, sariqna, sariqta, sariqtuma, sariqtum, sariqti, sariqtuma, sariqtunna, sariqtu, sariqna. Right, and then you will be able, right, and memorizing the pattern of the ism al-fa'il and the ism al-maf'ul. Right, by knowing that, and obviously this is form 1, you'll be able to take any word and make it that's on form 1 and make it into this. Right, so if I were to just give you any word in form 1, let's say taraka, form 1. Let's give some taraka, form 1 again. عامل عاملة, right, form 1. So taraka means to leave, right, and that applies metaphorically also to forsaking someone or abandoning something. Taraka means to, right, to knock at the door, right. Sorry, that's wrong. To knock. And amila means to do, right, to do an action, right. So how do I say, how do I make each of these into, instead of having them into a past tense verb, I want them into a noun version of those verbs. So how would I say the first one? Taraka.
Tarikun.
Tarikun, right? And it's a hadith, tarikun lidinihi, right? That a person who leaves, abandons their religion, tarikun lidinihi, right? Literally means, right, they are forsaking, a forsaker of their religion. Taraka, I want to make it an active participle, but feminine, singular. Right? A female knocker, or a door knocker. Right? So say you have somebody who goes door to door, just knocking. That's it. You knock and then run. Okay? But this one's a girl. So how do I say that in a noun version? Tariqatun. Good. Right? And tariq is actually one of the surah of the Qur'an, Surah at-Tariq. Right? At-Tariq is the piercing star. So it kind of comes from the same word as knocking. Amila. Right? So how do I say? Plural, 3 or more women who do, right? Who do. Right? Amila is also the word for work. Right? To work. Right? So amal is your job. So I want to say 3 or more women workers. Right? Not that they work or they worked in the past, but 3 workers, but feminine.
Amilatun.
Amilatun, good. Amilatun. Right? And so you knew what the 3 root letters were in their verb version, right? So by that, you are able to plug it into a noun version and change the pronoun. Right? So amilatun are women who work. Salihatun, righteous women. Right? Mu'minatun, right? Believing women.
Can I ask
And
a
you can do the
question?
same thing for the ism al-maf'ul, right? Matruq, and ma'mul. Was there a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sure, no problem.
What I'm confused about actually looking at this is in my notes I had for the passive, you add the dhamma on the first letter, and then correct me if I'm wrong, and then the second to the last letter is the fatha. So I'm a little confused about the passive written here. Am I just missing something in my notes?
No, so for form 1, the passive is the first letter is a dhamma,
Oh,
and the second letter is a kasra. But form 2 to 10, right, it's just as you said. The first letter is a dhamma, the second to last letter is a fatha.
okay.
Right, so form 1 is what we're doing here. We're going to move to form 2 right now, actually.
Okay,
Try to
thank
give
you.
it some, no problem. Right, so form 2, right, we had the word above, hammada. Right, so hammada would be, right, hammadu. Hammadat, so let's just stop there. Hammadat. Okay, these are all ma'ruf. Right? They're active, meaning the doer is known. So how would you translate hammada? If the root letters ha, mim, dal means to praise, how would you translate hammada?
He praised.
He praised. Right? Obviously, a verb like this would need an object if you wanted to make a proper sentence. He praised, obviously, would be something or someone. So hammada, right? Hamadallaha, right? He praised Allah. Okay, so but it's active, right? So right? The doer is known. That's why the word ma'ruf. Ma'ruf is actually ism al-maf'ul. You can see it, maf'ul, ma'ruf, it follows the same pattern. And arafa means to know. So ma'ruf means something that's known. Right? In this case, the doer is known. And this here, sorry, he praised. Now we want to make the let's just move this for a second. Oops. Sorry, I don't want to erase it. Okay, so now we want to do the ismul fa'il, right, which is essentially the same thing as the active verb, but we're changing it into a noun. So we're taking out the tense, right? So right, this is we're doing from form 2 to 10 now. Right, form 2 to 10. When you want to make the active participle, do you make it from the past tense or the present tense?
From the present tense?
From the present tense, good. Right, so actually what I should have done is put both past and present tense here. So just quickly, all right. Yuhammidu. Yuhammidani. Oops. Yuhammiduna. And then tuhammidu. The ta being an indicator to the feminine, as opposed to the ya before it, which are masculine. Tuhammidu. All right, so if I want to make the ism al-fa'il, the active participle from yuhammidu, what does it become? We change the ya to a meme, and then we put the tanween.
Muhammadun.
Muhammadun. Okay, so that's the first one, right? That is a singular male, right, praiser. All right, so we took out the tense. There's the action praising, right, singular male, because we made it from yuhammidu, which is singular male. All right, how do I change yuhammidani? Same steps. So just change the ya to a meme. What would it be? What's the dual of Muhammadun? Muhammad. Dani. So the Annie is the dual. You add Annie to anything, it becomes a dual, or at least for nouns. Right? And then Yuhammiduna becomes Muhammidu. Right, so you can compare this to what we did before. Right? Sariqun became Sariqani, which is dual, and then Sariquna. Sariqani, Sariquna. Same thing here. Right? Muhammidun, Muhammidani, Muhammiduna. Right? And then the feminine, what would I, if I change to Hammidu, right? What would it, to a meme, what would it become?
Muhammad.
Is there anything? Good, very good. So the tune is added because it's feminine. Muhammidatun, a female praiser. Okay, but that's all passive. That's all active, right? So this is praiser, right? Singular male. This is dual male. This is plural male, and this is singular female. Right? All these being this. Now, if I wanted to do this majhul, right? What is majhul again?
Passive.
Passive. Good. So majhul, verb, right? If it's form 1, then the first letter gets a dhamma, second to last letter gets a kasra. If it's form 2 to 10, then first letter gets a, right? Obviously we're talking about the verb, right? The present tense. Right, so yuhammidu, I changed the first letters already a dhamma, so we can keep that. Yuham. second to last letter must be a fatha. So it becomes what?
Madu.
Madu, right? What does that mean? He is praised. Right? He is or will be praised. Right? So present or future tense are both included. Right? Then the same thing applies to the rest. Yuhammadani, again keeping sure to make the meme a fatha. Yuhammadani as opposed to yuhammidani changes the meaning completely. Right? And then what's the plural? Yuhammaduna. And then the feminine singular would be two. Is it ma or me? Passive.
Ma.
Good, right? Tuhammadu, right? She is praised. Right, so this would be, right, they, right, dual masculine, right? They, plural masculine, which would be 3 and up. And this would be she. Right? She is praised, or it will be praised. Okay. Now, what is the noun version that matches the majhul, the passive verb? What is the derived noun that we use to match that? Ism al-fa'il, the active participle, match the ma'ruf, which is the active verb. Right, so here we have a passive verb. What's the passive participle called?
محمود.
Yeah, so that's what it ends up being. But what is the name of the active participle, the term? Ismul
Oh, مفعول.
maf'ul. Right. Now it's called ismul maf'ul because maf'ul is how it shows up in form 1, right? But for form 2, right, we have to do a little bit more work, right? So we take yuhammadu, right, and we change the first letter to a meme, and then we add a tanween. So how do I say it? Muhammad.
Madun.
Madun. Good. So what's the difference between, let's just use a different color. What's the difference between this and this? Aren't they the same exact word?
No, that one's got a kasra. And
Good. So
the
which one
مفعول
has the
has a
kasra?
fatha. The fa'il, اسم فاعل.
Okay, so the ism al-fa'il has a kasra, whereas the ism al-maf'ul has a fatha. So there's a big difference. And this is why, another reason why reciting the Qur'an properly is very important, because they mean worlds apart. Right? One is a person who's praising, right, the praiser. The other one is the one being praised. Right? So Muhammadun is the one who is often praised. Right? So when somebody says, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, they say Muhammidan, and I've heard it many times, right? It changes the entire meaning. Right? And that's not his name, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His name is the one who is always praised passively. He is the one to whom praise goes to. Right? So Muhammadun, the name of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is from form 2 of Hamida, and it's Ismul Maf'ul of form 2. Right? And then if you're talking about multiple people named Muhammad, right, then you can, the same thing applies. Muhammadani, Muhammaduna, and Muhammadatun. Muhammadatun would be a female who is constantly praised. And we actually recently got a question that, can you name your daughter Muhammadatun? Right. So any questions on that? So that's form 2. Right? And the same exact thing applies to form 3 to 10 as well. Right? So if we wanted to just use any example, right? Let's use, for instance, form 3, right? Nafaqa, right? Nafaqa right? Sorry. Remember, form 2 to 10 is made from the present tense. Right? So nafaqa yunafiqu. Yunafiqu. It means he is a hypocrite. Hypocrites. Okay. Now, if I wanted to say a hypocrite, how do I say hypocrite in Arabic? A person who's a hypocrite.
نافق.
Munafiq. Good. Right, so now, even though you probably already knew the word munafiqun, because there's a chapter in the Qur'an called munafiqun, plural, right? But now somebody asked you, what does munafiq mean? You can tell them it means a hypocrite, but it's singular masculine, right? And it's made from form 3, the active verb, active present tense of form 3, yunafiqu. The ya was changed to a meme, and the last letter was given a tanween. Okay, so you can add some knowledge. So how do I say two hypocrites, two male hypocrites? How do I make it dual?
Munafiqani.
Good. Munafi, qani. Okay, plural.
munafiquna.
Munafiquna. Good.
Can it also be
And then-
munafiqina?
Yeah, so if it changes state in the sentence, then it'll show up as a ya noon instead of a wow noon, but essentially it's the same word. It's just a different state. So if you said the hypocrites said, you would say قال المنافقون. If you said I saw the hypocrites, they're the object of the sentence, you would say رأيت المنافقين. Right? But essentially they're the same. And that's more of nahw than it is sarf. Right? How about the singular feminine?
منافقة.
Munafiqatun. Good. Okay. Right, and then right, you can do that by yourself, right? Because dual is generally ani, and then plural is generally una, and then feminine has a ta on the end. But essentially, right, it's made from the mudari'. So yunafiqu, yunafi, qani, it's already there. Right, yunafiquna. Right, so the only difference is this has a ya and this has a meme. Right, ya, meme, ya, meme. Just 1 second. Yeah. Okay, and then tunafiqu would be the feminine. So here, the only difference would be is you would change the ta to a meme, but you would have to add the feminine ta at the end. So that applies. So the same method applies to all of the forms between 2 and 10. Right, so recap: ism al-fa'il and ism maf'ul form 1 are made with the pattern fa'ilun and maf'ulun. Form 2 to 10, the ism fa'il is made from the present tense ma'ruf, which is active, that the doer is known, and the ism maf'ul is made from the present tense of the doer is not known, the majhul, the passive. Right? So again, yuhammidu, and this one is made from yuhammadu. Right, so one results in being muhammidun, and the other one muhammadun. Munafiqun, and the other one would be munafaqun, if that's even a real word. Right? Somebody who is hypocrited. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate the ism fa'il and ism maf'ul, because those are the two most important of the derived nouns. Does that make sense? Is there any questions on that?
I had a quick question. So we studied how it applies to the third person. They can also be applied to the second and first person, right?
Yeah, right. So singular masculine, right? It could apply to the first, it could apply to first person. So I could say, right, أنا منافق, right? Because it's singular masculine. Or if it's a woman talking, she could say أنا منافقة. Okay, because that's singular feminine. Right? If it's right, you can also say أنت منافق. You shouldn't do that, but right, don't say things like that because it's singular masculine. So it's not about first person, third person, or second person. It's more about the gender and the plurality. That's it. Right? So you could say أنت منافق, أنتِ منافقة, right? هي منافقة, هو منافق, right? And so forth. نحن منافق. What would it be? نحن منافق. قونا. قونا, right? مرفوع. So if there's a mixture between male and female, so to say there's 5 of us, right? 3 of us are female, 2 of us are male, you would say نحن منافقون. You would use the masculine because that's generally the masculine is used if there's a mixture, even if there's a mixture. But if it's only women speaking, you would say نحن منافقات. Right? نحن منافقات. So if you're a group of women and you're speaking, نحن منافقات. Okay, because that's it's plural and it's feminine. So, last thing I wanted to do is what we're going to do this as the next few classes continue. That we want to just really emphasize memorizing the verb charts. Okay, so how many people did not memorize form 1, past tense? Can we just have like a show of hands? I think there's a button you can push to raise your hand. Has anyone not memorized form 1 past tense? فعل فعل فعلوا فعلت فعلت فعلنا فعلت فعلتما فعلتم فعلتي فعلتما فعلتن فعلتوا فعلنا. Does anyone not memorize that? Don't be shy. I just wanted to make sure. How about present tense? Form 1 present tense. Anyone not memorized it? يفعل يفعلان يفعلون تفعلوا تفعلان يفعلن تفعلوا تفعلان تفعلون تفعلين تفعلان تفعلن أفعلوا نفعلوا. So I'm going to take your silence as that you've memorized at least form 1 past and present tense. Okay, so what we want to do is that with all 10 forms, right, today we won't have enough time to have everyone say it. So next week we're going to try to give a specific amount of time where everyone can say the fa'ala, fa'ala, fa'alu, fa'alat, fa'alata. Doesn't have to be fast, just smooth. I just want to work out the kinks. Sorry?
No, I was just saying, sorry. I've just said I'm not that fast yet.
Yeah, don't worry about speed. It's more about fluidity and not having to think, pause and think. Right? So even if it's slow, but it's steady. So next week we're going to try to do that with past tense and present tense, or for form 1 only. All right. But what we want to do is that once you get those down, the longer versions, right, all 14 of the past, all 14 of the present, right, for each form, then we're going to write out a pattern to where you can memorize all that into one sentence. So I'm just going to write the pattern. So fa'ala, yaf'alu. So what we're taking is the first of each type. Right? Fa'ala, yaf'alu. Right? So that's past, right? Present. Right? The next thing we're going to add is ism fa'il. Right? So active participle. Something like that. Forgive the spelling. Fa'ilun. Right? So fa'ala yaf'alu fa'ilun. Generally, the Arabs, when they teach this is called sarf saghir, the small sarf. generally the Arabs, when they teach it, they try to make it into a sentence. Right? So they'll say, fa'ala, he did, yaf'alu, he is doing, fahuwa, so he is, right? Fa'ilun, a doer. And so this added part kind of gives it more fluidity. Fa'ala yaf'alu, fahuwa fa'ilun. And one last thing we can add, just to really consolidate all of our knowledge, is that they would generally add the root noun here. So the root noun of fa'ala yaf'alu is fi'l. Fi'lun means to do or doing. Right? So fa'ala yaf'alu fi'lun fahuwa fa'ilun. Right? So this is the root noun. Have I explained before how you find the root noun in the dictionary?
You can always explain it again. I don't know if you did, but I always need help with that.
Okay, one second. Okay. So we'll keep a note of that too. So if any of you remembers, can you just remind me next week's class that we want to take a few moments to go over how to use the dictionary one more time. Right, so this is form 1, and this is all active. Right, and then the second one would be, right, fu'ila, yuf'alu. Right, the root noun doesn't change. Fi'alun, right, fahuwa maf'ulun. Right. Okay, and so this would be the passive. So if you memorize just those 2 lines for each form, you have everything. All right, so form 1, you can change it. You can change the letters. You can say daraba yadribu darban fahuwa daribun. That means to hit, right? Or duriba yudrabu darban fahuwa madrubun. Right, so I'm going to save this picture, and I'll share it with you on the. I'll share it with oops, apologies. I'll share it with everyone, inshallah, via the email, inshallah. And then next week we'll carry off from there. Also, making sure to take time to go over how the dictionary works, to listen to you guys read the form 1, past and present, and then to go over this one more time, inshallah. So we'll have to stop there for today. So inshallah, next week we'll carry on from here. We'll finish revising the derived nouns, and then we'll do what we mentioned just now. وصلى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم الحمد لله رب العالمين. If there's any questions, then you can reach out via the email, yusuf@seekersguidance.org. Just something came up. I have to step away right now. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
جزاك الله خير.